Since the last video, I have hooked up the memory outputs to the data bus and added an accumulator register, as well as a sub-instruction counter that points into the control EEPROM along with the IR. The purpose of the sub-instruction counter is to keep track of what cycle of an instruction you're currently on, and it allows for unique control codes to be outputted on every cycle of the instruction. I've used this to add the first instruction, which loads an immediate value into the accumulator. On the first cycle, it loads the opcode into the IR, as all instructions do when the sub-instruction counter outputs 0, like this. And on the second cycle, the new byte is sent to the accumulator coming out of memory, and the load pin of the sub-instruction register is pulled low to signal that the next byte will be another opcode. At least that's how it should work. In reality, I've run into a major roadblock building this computer: race conditions. A race condition is when two things are supposed to happen at the same time, but in reality, one will happen slightly earlier, and which one will vary each time. This becomes an issue when, if A happens before B, it stops B from happening at all, or vice versa, which is the case in this architecture. Because the registers in this computer use transparent logic instead of edge-triggered, it is a problem that the data bus often updates slightly before the control codes. This means that, for example, if the accumulator is enabled on the final cycle of an instruction, and then another instruction comes through next, the opcode will often mistakenly be loaded into the accumulator before the control codes can switch. So here, let me see if I can get an example of that. There's data going in, and there it sends the opcode in too. This wouldn't be such an issue if it only happened once with the accumulator, as it could be fixed by delaying the pathway between the data bus and accumulator. However, it seems that this will most likely interfere with every register attached to the data bus. I believe that this is a flaw with my design and that I may need to start over. However, if anybody watching this video has any ideas, I would love to hear them in the comments. For now, this is the end of the portion of this project which I'm submitting for school, and maybe, although hopefully not, the end of the project as a whole.